How's it going, guys?
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andy.
Welcome to Game Couch.
Right, today we're going to be playing Spec Ops: The Line, which is made by 2K and Jaeger Games.
Before we get started, just a quick rundown, because there will be some spoilers, since we're taking such an in-depth look at it. Brilliant storyline.
Brilliant storyline.
Gameplay is pretty average, but it holds it together well. Graphics are pretty average, but again, not really noticeable. Multiplayer is abysmal, don't bother with it. But overall, in terms of story and campaign mode, fantastic. Would definitely recommend buying it. Shall we go for it?
Aye, let's go.
Let's have a look. We've sort of come into the game, we're about less than a quarter of the way through. We didn't really want to show you the whole
Opening bit. It's
opening sequence, standard opening, here's how you do things, blah blah blah. So basically what it does open with is three characters. Captain Walker, which you play as, who's voiced by Nolan North. Nolan North is also the voice of Nathan Drake in the Uncharted series, which I think he's most famous for, but he's also in pretty much every other game ever made.
Yeah, if you've ever played a game, it's had Nolan North's voice in it. Yeah. Pretty much.
And we've also got Christopher Reed playing Lieutenant Alfonso Adams and Omid Abtai playing Sergeant John Lugo. Those are your two comrades who are always with you from start to the end. You've got Lugo, which is your loudmouth sniper white guy, and you've got Adams. No, it's not Lugo Adams. Sorry, it's
I thought it was Lugo Adams.
No, it's John Lugo and Alfonso Adams. Adams rather is the big angry black guy who blows shit up with grenades and carries heavy weapons. You bog standard sort of military helpers.
Your typical, we are here to help you out. You've got your wise crack guy. What do you mean I'm a funny guy and all that jazz? And you've got the guy who just likes to shoot shit and be honourable.
So yeah, and basically what the sort of overarching plot is, Dubai kind of got engulfed by all these sandstorms, and Colonel John Conrad takes a regiment called the Damn 33rd into Dubai to rescue the civilians, and fails.
From the sandstorm.
Yeah, from the sandstorm, and fails basically, and the three guys, Spec Ops guys, are sent in to find out what happened and rescue any survivors and find out what happened and rescue anyone who's still alive, basically.
What happened, because when the storm comes in, all communications is cut off. And also what you just saw there was Dan performing an execution, and which is somewhat like Gears, in the way that if you manage to shoot somebody enough that they're down, but not dead, you can go and execute them. And they start off pretty tame, knee on the throat. Well, that's it, tame. Knee on the throat, neck snap. But as it goes on, they end up just like braying their heads off the floor and stuff like that. So they start getting a little bit more bloodthirsty as the psychology starts to cripple and things like that. Right, controls, fine, standard, really normal. It's if you played a third-person shooter before, they're quite good. I thought they were alright. There's they're a little bit lacking. They're a little bit soft. They're not as quick and light and precise as a lot of the controls are from like Modern Warfare and Black Ops and Halo as well. But they've got quite a bit of weight behind them as well, which I quite like.
Yeah, they're much more weighty compared to like say Call of Duty. So alongside these three heroes, shall we call them for now, going into to try and find out what's going on and save the day. The CIA are in Dubai as well, but their motives for being there are very unclear right from the off. You don't know whether, like the CIA for real, you don't know whether you're supposed to trust them or
not,
or worry about them. And they get quite their involvement in the main plot gets quite dark and quite gritty as well.
But it's a pretty big section. It's not that big actually. It's quite short, but it's a very important part of the section.
Yeah, important part of the game. Yeah, definitely.
There's a couple other things as well which I forgot to mention during the controls. There's one little gimmick of the game which we'll undoubtedly see Dan do at some point, where you come across these like big panes of glass with sand piled up behind them from the storm. If you shoot them out, it's a bit of a gimmick, to be fair. It's very
contextual.
It's very contextual, yeah. Sand pours out, kills people. Quite
Carry
easy.
on.
Yeah, you get an achievement for it, I think. But you also get these. You can control your squad a little bit, like you can in the likes of Rainbow Six and stuff like
that.
Yeah. You can tell Baird and Coltrane to run around and do stuff while you're playing, but it's always sort of you
point at this, shoot
Yeah,
that.
cool. It's just either throw a grenade or snipe or
Yeah.
one of them. It's pretty standard. It's pretty obvious. But it lights up, lets you know where they are in the field. So it's not like one of those ones where you'll tell them to do something and then the bullet just appears from nowhere over your shoulder and kills them. It does actually come from the character, which I like quite a lot.
Yeah, they take their time to get set up and do it, which can be a bit of a faff though when you're waiting for. Oh, he's one of the sand things. There you go.
Yes, there you go.
They take their time to get set up, which can be a bit of a faff when you're in the middle of a firefight. But
Half the time you've gunned them down before they've had a chance. I had trouble working the cover system. Dan didn't. That might be because I'm a moron or whatnot. But as far as the story's concerned, for a modern shooter, it's one of the best ones I've ever played. I'd go as far as saying that this game, on my one playthrough, quickly became one of my favourite games, and it's partially down to the choices that you have to make. Because when I first noticed there was moral choices, is your very, very first one's very obvious. It's almost like the Fable kind of black and white choices where you either save the puppy or stamp the child to death, and it's really obvious which one you're going to go for unless you're evil, or trying to be evil as you can do in lots of games, which kind of spoils it. This one starts off pretty obvious, kind of, do you want to save the civilians where there's more of them, or do you want to save the important military guy where there's only one of them, who you could probably do without. But as it progresses, the choices become a little bit more difficult, not because they're just harder to make, but it's more...
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I mean, well, the game's called Spec Ops: The Line, but it's not... It's very, very well done. It's not like the line between good and evil fades. It's where's the line within yourself? Where do you draw the line of, I know that's the right decision, but I really can't do it. It has that sort of feeling to it, and that's what I really liked about it. There was one you wanted to talk about, one of the decisions, wasn't it?
Well, there's a sequence in the game. Obviously, we said at the beginning there's going to be spoilers, so here you go. Here's a spoiler. There's a section of the game where you need to fight your way through a crowd of enemy soldiers, and the game gives you the impression that you've got more than one choice, but in truth you don't. The only way through is to launch white phosphorus, which, if anyone doesn't know, is one of the most horrendous pieces of military
invention.
It like weapons ever. It's horrible stuff. It melts the flesh from your body, basically. So
it's like napalm for badasses.
Essentially, yeah. So you use this stuff and you kill everybody, only to discover that in the process you've actually butchered quite a few civilians, and what you've done is possibly the sickest, most horrendous thing possible.
But even without the civilians there, it's
still a grim...
It presents it to that this is the only choice you have, and then snaps you back and just goes, you've just melted that, like, about 100 people.
Yeah.
That's horrible regardless whoever you are.
Yeah. So
and that's what's good.
The game sort of doesn't... It presents it though you have a choice, but then it turns out that you don't. And then when you've done it, it goes, why did you do that? That was horrible. That was really grim of you. And your teammates are very sort of... They pick up on that. They're the ones that... how the game presents itself is saying that was a bad choice. Is your characters, your comrades sort of go, well, what did you do that for? That's horrible. They start fighting each other because they're arguing over, you know, what happened, really.
Yeah, there's a couple like that where there's the other is hidden from you, like it would be. So that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that thing.
It stops everything from being sort of one way or the other. But it like I say, it presents it to you as though it is just the one way or the other, when in actual fact there is more than one choice, and there would be in a real life situation. Also, the one thing we haven't mentioned yet as well, Spec Ops is actually based on the book Heart of Darkness.
Oh yeah.
But not in the sense that that isn't going to spoil the ending of the game for you, because it doesn't directly rip off anything about the story. It's just based on the story.
Yeah. And for anybody who hasn't read Heart of Darkness, if you've seen Apocalypse Now is a film adaptation of Heart of Darkness, but you don't come across Marlon Brando ruling over African natives in this game, so it's based on it in the good way of saying it's based on it, as in it's not an adaptation of it, it's just inspired by.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Definitely.
I'm about halfway through Heart of Darkness, actually.
Yeah, I know. I want to read it as well. That's another good thing about this game as well, is that it's made me want to read a book. How many games do you know that do that? Very, very few.
Other than expanded universe.
Other than expanded universe books. I mean, I read anyway, but I wasn't aware of the book Heart of Darkness until I played this game.
I think you're going to die.
No, I'm not.
Ah, I thought the grenade was going to kill you.
I wasn't aware of the book Heart of Darkness till I played this game. And I think that's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I'm ashamed to say that I hadn't heard of Heart of Darkness because I have since discovered that it is quite a famous book. But
yeah, Heart of Darkness, incidentally, is wrote by a chap called Joseph Conrad, hence why the
John Conrad
and he is called Conrad as well.
I mean, on this, here we go. Those are the contextual sand windows again. Nice. One of the other things that I wanted to mention as well is another sort of. This game is one of few games that's actually made me feel guilty and awful about what I've done whilst playing the game. I'm not going to spoil too much, but there's a section in which you get the choice to... basically, it's either kill the civilians who've done you wrong or accept that they've done what they've done because they felt like it was the only way to save themselves. And I actually chose to gun them down and then immediately regretted it. Yeah. No game has ever made me feel like that before, ever. There is another way around that, of course. You can shoot into the air and scare them off.
I chose to scare them off, but I only did that because I heard that you would gun them down.
Yeah.
But when I played it, my first reaction was to gun them down because you're surrounded, and I thought, I don't know, I'm going to be the bigger man, I'm going to push my way through them. But then they start attacking you. And then you have that. I had that panic of just I'm gonna have to shoot them, and then I remembered what you'd done, and I thought, oh, I'll shoot the air, that might work, and it did. Thankfully, I was actually really confused because I had shot into the air, and I thought the other character had gunned them all down. So I thought, oh, that was useless, but he hadn't. He had shot into the air, thankfully.
He followed your orders.
There's if you've ever seen the film The Warriors as well, there's a fairly big plot point in this game where it's kind of like the first half of it or so is based around you trying to get to a radio tower so you can tell everybody to get out of the city and evacuate. Loading screen. And but it's kind of responsible for why the soundtrack's so cool, because the soundtrack is just classic rock for pretty much most of the game. And just like the Warriors, the radio host kind of narrates you as you're going through and is telling all of the 33rd and all of the other gangs
where you
are, what you've just done. So you don't like him because he's getting you in danger. But there's just some really interesting moments in it. Like there was a part where you're going through a corridor with Nowhere to Run, which is the Nowhere to Run, baby, that song on, and it's really fun, especially when you just pound people with shotguns walking on a corridor with Nowhere to Run on. But that moment is lifted directly from the film The Warriors, and it must be a reference. It's too unsubtle to have been accidental. It must be quite a fun reference because look at the setting. The Warriors trapped in New York with only people other themselves who want to kill them. You, 3 people trapped in Dubai with only people who want to kill you. Which isn't obvious at the start, but people who only want to kill you. And then you got the odd bit here and there where it gives you hope, like the Warriors, when they get in the train. And then it pulls it back from you. Well, yeah, there's actually a bit where you're in a convoy of vehicles, and then it crashes, like the train and the Warriors. That's pretty fun. I like that. I don't know if the Warriors is influenced by Heart of Darkness or not, though. I don't think it is. I think it's too different. I think it's kind of a pull out by this game, more so than a sharing inspiration.
The one thing I will mention as well is on the subject of that the Radio Man is he's voiced by Jake Busey, who, if anybody doesn't know who he is, he's Ace in Starship Troopers, which I was really surprised by. So I thought that was quite cool because I like Jake Busey. Here's an example of a moral choice. Do I kill the CIA agent or do I leave him alive? My decision here is blow his fucking head off. And that also gives me a chance to show you the abysmal headshot animation if it lets us get around. Has it blown his head off?
No, he's landed on the other guy, so it looks like the other guy's head's his.
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention was when you headshot people on this game, it blows their head off in a big cloud of blood and guts and stuff. Well, a big cloud of blood and brains. But there's just a cone stump with no... okay, Adam's just dropped on my head. With no gore effects. For a game that's built on the Unreal Engine, I find that very odd and quite lazy to leave out the neck gore. It kind of sucks you out of the realism of the game a bit. but once you get into it, things like that become secondary and you don't really notice anymore. But when I first played through, I really didn't like that.
I didn't notice that whatsoever. I was too engrossed, slowly getting depressed and psychologically broken by this game. Well, there's not an obvious twist. The game kind of just slowly mutates into a twist. There's a few things that you don't expect happen. There might be a couple of things that you do kind of expect. I sort of expected the ending.
There you go. There's the crap head.
Yeah, there's the little pyramid. I sort of expected the ending, but that was just because I'd started. Oh, you died. I was noticing the psychological change in the characters and how it was going, and the way they're slowly becoming obsessed with things. But it's a very good, well, kind of twist. It's more of a mutation of the plot. It's more of a side thing anyway.
Yeah, it has an actual story arc. It slowly builds from typical third-person shooter to complete psychological meltdown, which is brilliant, and it does it in a very subtle and not particularly obvious way until it becomes apparent to the character that he's starting to break, which I think is brilliant because it means it makes you feel like you're breaking as well. During the loading screens, it will give you little messages that you don't notice at first. Like, it'll say things like, it's not your fault, or you're not a bad person, but they're only on screen for enough time that it takes you to notice them, and then they're gone straight away. And it gives you that feeling of almost, did I actually just read that? And you find yourself feeling a bit sort of...
No, this game is fantastic. The developers have went out of the way to make a fun game, modern shooter game that's pretty good, but actually has a brain in its head. It's deep, it's heavy, it's well done. They've tried to make a game that will make you think about it after you've played, not just want to play it again, to actually affect you emotionally. And it's one of the only modern shooter games, that's ever done that for me. Actually, sort of made us actually question things, even in like how I just see situations and culture. And very, very clever, much more clever than I'm sure I could actually get into it. And worth buying. It's worth giving the developers some money.
Yeah,
it really is.
Buy it, play it, enjoy it, because you definitely will. It's just excellent. Everything about it's great. I wish we had more time to talk about other things.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut off now.
But we're gonna have to end it now, unfortunately. Thanks for watching, guys. Go buy the game. Subscribe to the channel. Watch our old stuff.
If you want to see us do anything new, or if you want to talk about this game, I would love to have a conversation about this game with somebody. Yeah. I absolutely adored it.
Send us a message if you've played it.
I'll have read Heart of Darkness by the time this came out as well.
Yeah.
Stick it in the comments below. Just please share us around, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. See ya.
See you later.